Welcome back. Today I have learned what is numeric data types in Python. I'm gonna show you whatever I have learned in numeric data types. Before that, if you wanna know what are all the built-in data types in Python, you can visit my previous post. There I have clearly showed what are all the built-in data types that are available in Python. You can make use of it. Now we are getting to numeric data types. With the name numeric itself, you can understand it will be a numeric value like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or sometimes in decimal values and goes on. I will talk about the complex when I'm gonna explain it in detail. So now, how a variable becomes a type of data. So variable of numeric types are created when you assign a value to them. Here you know x is a variable, and when I assign 1 to it, it becomes a numeric data type because the 1 is gonna be an integer data type. And I'm gonna show you what is integer data type is. Int or integer is a whole number. It can be either positive or negative value, but it should not be a decimal value. Here you can see 1 and certain digits I have already typed, and I have assigned to the variable x, y and z respectively. And let me check the type of the variables by calling the print function. I'm running it. You can see it shows an int. With this you can understand it can either be a single digit or a 10-digit numeral value, or can be a negative digit value. Still it will be a integer type. You will get a clear idea about when we explain all the data types, all the numeral data types like int, float and complex. So just keep watching. Now I'm gonna see what is float data type. So float or floating point number is a number. It can be either positive or negative value, but it should contain one or more decimals. So here you can see 1.10, 1.0, minus 35.59 and respectively assigned to the variables x, y and z. And I have also called the print function to show me the type of the variable. Now I'm gonna run it. You can see it shows float, so you can understand whatever that comes with a decimal point, it can also be a negative, still it will be a float value. So when we talk about the integer value, it contains only the whole number, not the float. So integer value comes with only the whole number. It can be also a negative, but float value, it should be a decimal value. The float will not only be a decimal value, it can also contain a e to indicate the power of 10. So I can say float can also be a scientific number with an e to indicate the power of 10. Here you can see I have assigned 35e3 to x, 12 uppercase e4 to y and a decimal value with e to z. I'm gonna run it. You can see still it shows float. With this you have to remember a float value should contain a decimal value, or it should contain a e to indicate a power of 10. The e either can be a lowercase or can be uppercase, still it denotes power 10. Now we see complex numbers. Complex numbers are written with a j as an imaginary part. So I have assigned 3 plus 5j to x and 5j to y minus 5j to z. We use j as an imaginary part, so it may not contain a value. So to say it as a complex number, it should be followed by an integer, but the integer can also have a operator like plus or minus. Here the minus 5 will be a negative value and 5 will be a positive value. and 3 plus 5 is gonna be 8, so it will become like 8j. Still it will be considered as complex data type. I have called the print function to show me the type, and it shows complex to all the thing whenever I use j. But remember, the j should be a following number for an integer, and an integer can be a positive or negative, can also be in a operation. It's better to leave it without any deep diving. We will see it later on when we solve scientific equations in our later problem. So remember, we have learned 3 data types: int, float and complex. Integer is a whole number, positive or negative. It should be without decimals. And float or floating point number, it is a number and it is also positive or negative and contains one or more decimals. And float can also have a scientific number e, and e can be in either lower or upper case, and it denotes power 10. So when a numeral have e, it will also consider as float. And we have learned complex numbers. So just remember, complex number will be written with a j as an imaginary part. So the j will be after an integer, and the integer can be either positive or negative, or it can be also in operations. So now we see in Python all numeric types are immutable, which means you cannot change it. If you wanted to change any part of the number, you need to reassign the number itself. So if you have assigned x equal to 1, the x variable will be a int data type. If you wanted to change it, you have to change the value. If you change 2.8, it will become a float value. And if you wanted to change it to int, you can get it back to a whole number and it will become an int. So there is another way to convert the data type. For that, you have to create a new variable and you have to assign a value like this. You can see we have created a variable x and assigned it to 1, and it was integer data type. And when here I have created a new variable and assigns x as a float. To assign x as a float, you have to give float of x. So the a stores float of x, so it doesn't even consider what data type was x. It will automatically convert the x to float and will store it in a. So now when we ask the type of a to Python, it will say float. In the same way, you can convert float to int and int to complex. But remember, you cannot convert complex numbers into any other number type. So remember, for converting data, either you have data type, you have to either change the value to different data type, or you can convert by creating a new variable and assigning a value using a data type of variable. So that's it for today. Keep watching, keep learning. Have a great day.